My name is Isabella Garcia. I'm 31 years old, and I used to believe that love was measured by patience, how much you could forgive, how long you could wait, how calm you could stay when the other person forgot who you were. That belief lasted until the day I got that text. It was a Thursday, turned 18 p.m. I was at my desk halfway through a tuna sandwich, half listening to a code review meeting in the background. My phone buzzed. The preview alone made my stomach tighten. Jimmy, stop being cheap. My friends' girlfriends buy them Rolexes. Where's mine? No, hey babe, no housework, just that. At first I thought he was joking. Then I remembered Jimmy never joked about money or image. For context, Jimmy Wells was my boyfriend of a year and a half. He worked part-time at a luxury boutique downtown and liked to think of himself as refined. He talked about investments but never actually made any. His social media was a highlight reel of dinners I paid for and weekend trips I planned. I didn't mind not at first. He was funny, affectionate, and public charming in a way that made my friends say, "You're lucky." But lately that charm had curdled into something performative. Everything had to look perfect. A Rolex, a $12,000 watch because his friends' girlfriends buy them one. I stared at my phone, then at my half-eaten sandwich. Something in me snapped quietly like a string pulled too tight for too long. So I texted back, "Me, good point." Maybe it was sarcasm. Maybe it was exhaustion disguised as calm. He replied immediately, "Jimmy, OMG, really? I want the black Submariner with the gold trim. That's the one that actually means something. I can't wait to show the guys. You're the best, babe." My sandwich went untouched. I wasn't angry, not yet, just numb. I kept reading the message, each line louder than the last. That's the one that means something. Not love, not partnership, a watch. That evening, while he texted me links to Rolex models, I sat on my couch, scrolling through emails. One caught my eye. Thomas Garcia, promotion announcement. My younger brother, 26, newly promoted to senior analyst at his firm. I smiled despite myself. Thomas was the kind of person who believed in showing up quietly and consistently. He'd been there when my car broke down during grad school and I couldn't afford repairs. He'd lent me money he didn't have and refused to let me pay him back for years. He never asked for recognition, never demanded anything. The contrast hit me like a brick. I opened my laptop and started researching Rolex models. Not for Jimmy, for Thomas. I found one, a 40mm Submariner pre-owned black dial gold bezel, $11,200. It was ridiculous, extravagant, and absolutely worth it. By midnight, I'd clicked purchase. I felt lighter. The next morning, Jimmy sent me a text before I even finished brushing my teeth. "Did you order it yet? I can go with you to pick it up if that makes it easier." I stared at the screen, smiled faintly, and replied, "Already handled it." He heart-reacted the message and sent a string of excited emojis. Handled it, I thought. Yeah, just not the way you think. A week later, the watch arrived. It came in a velvet box that felt absurdly heavy not because of its weight, but because of what it represented. I opened it slowly under my office desk. The gold caught the fluorescent light and glittered like quiet rebellion. Thomas's birthday dinner was that Saturday small family thing, cozy steakhouse, just the four of us. When I handed him the box, he laughed. "You didn't have to get me anything, Izzy." "Open it." He did, and froze. His jaw dropped. "Is this no? No way." My mom gasped. My dad looked like he was about to tear up. Thomas blinked twice, then covered his face with one hand. "You're insane," maybe I said softly, "but you earned it." He hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. My mom sniffled. "You always take care of each other," she whispered. For a moment, everything felt right warm, real unpretentious. Later that night, Thomas posted a photo of the watch on Instagram. Caption: "Best sister in the world. I don't deserve her." I liked the post, set my phone down, and went to sleep smiling. Monday morning, my smile died before coffee. 27 missed calls, 62 messages, all from Jimmy. The first one read, "Why is your brother wearing my watch?" The rest got progressively worse. "Call me now. You gave my Rolex to your brother. Answer your phone, you psycho." My fingers went cold. I sat frozen at my desk rereading them until my coworker's voice broke through. "You okay, Bella?" "Yeah, I lied. Just personal stuff." He didn't buy it. I didn't care. By 10:15, I finally called Jimmy back. He answered mid-yell. "Are you out of your mind? You humiliated me." "Jimmy, I told my friends you were buying me that Rolex. Now they're laughing at me. You made me look pathetic." I took a slow breath. "Jimmy, I never said I was buying you anything. I said I'd handle it." "That's the same thing." "No, it's not." My voice was flat, quiet, deliberate. I bought it for someone who actually deserved it. Silence. Then a low, trembling laugh. Wow, so that's what I am to you. A joke. I didn't answer. He snapped. I'm coming to your office. We're talking about this face to face. I'm working. We'll talk later. I'm already in the parking lot. The line went dead. When I walked downstairs, he was there pacing near the glass doors, face red, eyes wide. He looked more embarrassed than angry, but he shouted anyway. You humiliated me. You told your whole family I'm a joke. I glanced around. People were staring. My pulse hammered in my throat, but my voice stayed calm. No one's laughing, Jimmy. But maybe think about why a watch meant more to you than respect. That's when he lost it, loud, shaking, incoherent. Security stepped in before I had to say another word. Ma'am, do you know this person? Yes, I said quietly, but I don't think I do anymore. They escorted him out while he yelled something about making things right. When the glass doors closed, I finally exhaled. My hands were shaking. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, the kind of tired that seeps into your bones. I walked back upstairs, sat at my desk, and stared at the Rolex website open on my browser. A small bitter laugh escaped me. All this over a watch. I didn't know it then, but that one stupid, careless text, was just the beginning. The next few days were strangely quiet. No calls, no text, no half-hearted apologies disguised as guilt. Just silence. Heavy, waiting silence. I thought maybe Jimmy had cooled off. Maybe the embarrassment at my office had snapped him out of whatever tantrum he'd been spiraling into. I even caught myself feeling relieved. By Thursday, I was almost starting to believe it was over. Then came Friday morning. I was halfway through a project when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. 10 seconds later, a text popped up. Jimmy, you think blocking me will fix anything? We need to talk. My chest tightened. I didn't respond. Another message came immediately. You owe me a conversation. After everything I did for you. You think you can humiliate me like that and move on. I blocked the new number. By lunch, he'd found another one. It was exhausting. Not dramatic, not fiery, just draining. Every beep of my phone felt like a reminder of how much someone could twist love into leverage. That night, I finally told my brother. Thomas listened in silence as I scrolled through Jimmy's texts. When I finished, he just exhaled slowly and said, You should start saving these. I already have. Good, because he's not going to stop just because you blocked him. He was right. The next day, a voicemail appeared from an unknown number. It was Jimmy's mother. Isabella, this is Diane Wells. I don't know what's gotten into you, but Jimmy is devastated. He hasn't eaten in 2 days. He says you publicly embarrassed him. You owe him an apology, or at least an explanation. Her tone wasn't angry, just sharp, the voice of a woman who'd spent her life cleaning up her son's messes and calling it love. I didn't reply. On Sunday, another call came, this time, Jimmy's best friend Connor. You know, you could have just talked to him instead of pulling a stunt like that. You made him look stupid in front of everyone. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Connor. I didn't do anything to him. You bought the Rolex and gave it away. What did you expect? He said you were planning to make it up to him. Make what up? The way you act superior. He said he just wanted to feel appreciated. I hung up. By Monday, the messages had changed tone. No longer pleading now, transactional. That afternoon, a hand-delivered envelope arrived at my apartment door. Inside was a 3-page handwritten note from Jimmy. The handwriting was messy, the kind of messy that comes from shaking hands. It started with apologies. I was hurt. I overreacted. I just wanted to feel special. Then it shifted. You owe me. You used me emotionally. I gave you my time and love. I deserve compensation for that. By the 3rd page, it got surreal. If you transfer me $10,000, we can call it even and rebuild trust. $10,000. I sat on my couch for a long time, the paper trembling slightly in my hands. The desperation in his words wasn't about heartbreak, it was about power. He wanted control, and when I took it back, he didn't know who to be without it. I sent a photo of the letter to Thomas. His reply came almost immediately. Is he insane? Pretty much. You need to protect yourself. Seriously. Document everything. So I did. I started a folder on my computer called For When It Gets Worse. Screenshots, voicemails, timestamps, everything. I didn't know if I'd ever use it, but deep down, I knew I might have to. 3 days later, the knocking started. It was a Wednesday night, almost midnight. Loud, impatient, repetitive. When I looked through the peephole, Jimmy was standing there, face-flushed, eyes glassy, half smiling in a way that made my stomach turn. Isabella, he called softly. Too softly. Can we talk? I didn't answer. I just want closure, he continued. That's all. Please just open the door. 5 minutes. I'll leave after that. I stood there, frozen, the chain lock trembling in my fingers. His voice sounded rehearsed, like a performance he'd practiced in the mirror. When I didn't respond, he started to knock again. Harder, louder. I know you're in there. You owe me a conversation. That snapped something in me. I didn't open the door. I didn't yell back. I just picked up my phone and recorded a 30-second clip through the peephole, his voice echoing down the hall, the pounding of his fist. Then I sent the video to Thomas. Still think he's just heartbroken. Thomas called instantly. Don't engage with him, Izzy. If he comes again, call the police. I'm serious. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. After a few more minutes, Jimmy stopped. A faint shuffle of footsteps, then silence. When I checked again, he was gone. Under the door, a folded piece of paper. You can't avoid me forever. You owe me a conversation. I'll keep coming back until you face me. That night I didn't sleep. Every sound felt like a footstep, every car door like a threat. By morning, my tired reflection in the mirror looked like someone I barely recognized, someone living between fury and fear. The following weekend, I tried to breathe again. Thomas came over with takeout, the kind of meal that fills silence with comfort. He leaned back on this couch, glanced at me, and said quietly, You know he's not going to stop, right? I know. So what's your next step? I don't know yet, I admitted. Part of me wants to disappear. Part of me wants to fight back. Thomas studied me. Then fight back. You've spent your whole life fixing other people's messes. Maybe it's time someone sees what happens when they push you too far. Something about his words landed hard, not like encouragement, but like truth. I wasn't the kind of person who yelled, who made scenes, who exposed drama. But Jimmy had dragged me into a war I hadn't declared. And I was done playing defense. The next morning, I opened my email, started a new message, and typed the subject line slowly. Subject: legal consultation inquiry. Maybe he thought I'd stay quiet. Maybe he counted on it. But silence wasn't self-control anymore, it was surrender. And I was done surrendering. I used to think that when people said it got worse, they meant yelling, name-calling, maybe threats. What I didn't know was that sometimes worse comes dressed in politeness. The day after I emailed that lawyer, my manager called me into his office. The tone in his voice already told me something was off. Close the door, Isabella. I did. He folded his hands on the desk. We got a call this morning from someone claiming to be your ex's father. He said you've been harassing his son, showing up at his apartment, sending threatening messages, refusing to accept the breakup. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My pulse went cold. Excuse me? He sighed. Look, I know how this sounds. HR will have to document it formally, but I wanted to give you a heads up first. Do you have any proof of the opposite? I have everything, I said quietly. And I did. Screenshots, voicemails, videos, the letter, even timestamps from security footage at my building that showed Jimmy outside my door. That afternoon, I sat in HR with a trembling cup of coffee while they reviewed my files. The representative, a calm woman named Teresa, skimmed through the messages and shook her head. He's trying to flip the story, she murmured. We'll make a note of this. If he calls again, forward everything to us directly. Relief mixed with humiliation. I'd spent years building a reputation at work as the reliable one, the level-headed engineer who never brought personal drama into the office. And now my ex had turned my workplace into another stage for his performance. When I got home that night, I forwarded everything to my lawyer. His reply came in minutes. Documented. I recommend we send a cease and desist letter immediately. Usually stops this kind of escalation. Do it, I typed back. Thursday morning, the letter went out certified mail. By Thursday evening, my phone rang from another unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this Isabella? The voice was older gravelly. Yes, this is Richard Wells. I'm Jimmy's father. I just received a threatening letter from your lawyer. What the hell is wrong with you? I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mr. Wells, your son has been contacting me repeatedly, showing up uninvited, and now calling my workplace with false accusations. The letter simply asks him to stop. He just wanted to talk, and you're sicking lawyers on him. You've embarrassed him enough. I took a deep breath. If he wanted to talk, he could have respected my boundaries. Instead, he's harassing me. That's not conversation. That's control. You think you can intimidate us with paperwork? We know people. You'll regret this. Then I'll see those people in court, I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear this time, from anger. I realized then that Jimmy hadn't learned to take responsibility for anything because no one had ever made him. His parents didn't raise a man, they raised a mirror that only reflected what he wanted to see. Friday was quiet, almost too quiet. No calls, no knocks. Just the hum of my apartment and the weight of waiting for the next thing. By Saturday morning, I thought maybe, just maybe, the letter had worked. Then, around noon, my brother called. You've seen his Instagram. I blocked him. He's posting stories. Not naming you, but everyone knows. Stuff about narcissistic women who manipulate good men. He even tagged a quote about false abuse claims. I felt a dull ache in my chest, not rage, just exhaustion. Let him post. Screenshots exist for a reason. Thomas was quiet for a moment. You okay? I don't know what okay means right now. That evening a knock came again. 3 times. Soft, deliberate. I froze. Then a voice different this time. Female. Isabella, it's me. Diane Wells. I looked through the peephole. Jimmy's mother stood there holding a casserole dish like she was visiting a neighbor. I just want to talk, she said. I brought lasagna. Maybe we can clear this up. I almost laughed. The absurdity of it, the manipulation wrapped in motherly warmth. No thank you, I said through the door. Please leave. Her smile faltered. You really think this letter will protect you? My son is suffering because of you. Then help him get therapy, I said flatly. Her lips pressed together. Unbelievable. She set the dish down in front of my door and left. I didn't touch it. Instead, I took a photo of it for the record, another entry in the folder called For When It Gets Worse. By Monday, HR confirmed. They had logged multiple attempted calls from Jimmy's father and best friend. They told me not to worry, but to stay vigilant. That same afternoon, my lawyer emailed. They've officially received the letter. If they contact you again, we can proceed to a restraining order. The word restraining felt too heavy for something that had started as a text about a watch. That night, I lay awake thinking about the first time Jimmy ever gave me a gift. It was a small box of chocolates after my first big presentation at work. I'd been so touched not because of the gift, but because he remembered the date. Somewhere along the way, that small kindness had mutated into an expectation that I would buy his affection in return. I wondered how many other women had mistaken red flags for romance. On Tuesday, my doorbell rang again, this time early morning. I opened the blinds cautiously. Nothing. No one in sight. Then I noticed something slipped under my car windshield downstairs, a folded note, familiar handwriting. You can play victim all you want, but you'll never find someone like me again. No one will love you the way I did. Underneath that, in smaller letters, you'll see. The chill that went down my spine wasn't from fear, it was from clarity. He didn't love me. He loved the version of himself he saw reflected in my approval. And when that mirror cracked, he blamed the glass. I took a photo, slid the note into a Ziploc bag for evidence, and whispered to the empty room, You're right, Jimmy. I'll never find someone like you again. Thank God for that. That night, I typed a final entry into my growing document log. March 22nd, 11:47 p.m. Jimmy Wells continues contact after legal warning. Evidence preserved. Next step, restraining order. Then I closed my laptop, turned off every light except one, and sat in the glow of it. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't scared. I was just done. There's a specific kind of quiet that follows exhaustion. Not peace, not relief. Just the eerie stillness of someone who's run out of adrenaline. That's where I was. For the next few days, I stopped reacting. I didn't check his social media, didn't open unknown numbers, didn't talk about him with anyone but my lawyer. I went to work, came home, watered my plants, and slept with the TV on for background noise. For a while, it almost felt normal, until Friday morning. My manager appeared at my desk again, face drawn tight. Isabella, can we talk? HR wants to see you. That sentence, HR wants to see you, has a way of rearranging your pulse. In the conference room, Teresa from HR looked up from her tablet. We received another complaint. My breath caught. From Jimmy. She nodded. He's claiming you've been sending his family threatening messages. He forwarded screenshots. I frowned. Screenshots of what? She turned the screen toward me. It was a text conversation, except the messages were fake. My name, my photo, and a string of sentences I'd never written. Things like, You'll regret crossing me, and tell your parents to stay out of this if they know what's good for them. For a second, I couldn't even speak. These aren't mine. I didn't think so, she said gently. But HR has to log everything formally. We'll add this to the file. The rest of the meeting blurred. When it ended, I went back to my desk, staring blankly at my monitor. Jimmy had crossed a new line fabrication. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was defamation. I emailed my lawyer everything. His reply came an hour later. He's building a false narrative. We'll add forgery and defamation to the documentation. Keep everything. If he continues, we'll move to a restraining order. I didn't cry. I didn't even shake. I just sat there still like I'd turned to stone. That night, I drove to my parents' house. I didn't want them to worry, but the loneliness was starting to weigh like a second skin. Thomas was already there when I arrived. He took one look at me and knew. Another one. I nodded. He faked screenshots. Sent them to HR. His jaw tightened. He's spiraling. Yeah, you're not alone in this, Izzy. I'll come stay with you for a while. I opened my mouth to argue. Independence is a hard habit to break, but I didn't. Okay. For the next few days, Thomas stayed at my apartment. The quiet presence helped the clatter of another coffee cup in the morning, the sound of someone else brushing their teeth down the hall. Normal things, grounding things. By Tuesday, we'd almost settled into routine again, until my phone lit up with another message from my lawyer. Jimmy's father has escalated. He's threatening to file a lawsuit for emotional damages. It's likely intimidation. Do not respond. I read it twice, then tossed the phone onto the couch. They're still trying to scare me, I muttered. Thomas leaned against the doorway. That's all they know how to do. People like that don't want the truth, they want control. His calm steadiness was the only thing keeping me from unraveling. That Thursday, an envelope arrived, no return address, postmarked from Jimmy's city. Inside was a single printed page. Withdraw the cease and desist, or we'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. At the bottom, a signature scrawled in blue pen, Jimmy. That night I scanned it, uploaded it to the folder, and emailed it to my lawyer with the subject line, Evidence Continued Harassment. He responded almost instantly. We're ready to file for a restraining order. Do you want to proceed? I hovered over the keyboard for a long moment. It felt so final. Part of me still wanted to believe this could just end on its own, that he'd get bored and move on. Then I remembered the fake screenshots, the phone calls to HR, the notes under my door. I typed one word, yes. The next morning, my lawyer filed. I expected some wave of relief, but it didn't come. Instead, it felt like grief, like I'd finally buried something that had died months ago, but hadn't noticed until now. I told Thomas, he just nodded and said, good, now he can't touch you. That weekend, I did something small but symbolic. I deleted every photo of Jimmy from my phone. Not angrily, just methodically. Each swipe felt like clearing space for air. While I was at it, I went through old texts, old screenshots. I didn't delete those. They stayed in the folder, proof of what I'd survived. Late that night, I caught myself scrolling through social media. On instinct, I searched his name. He'd made his account private. His profile picture was gone. It was eerie, like he'd vanished. For a moment, I wondered if this was peace. Then my phone buzzed an email. Subject line, final message. I froze. It was from Jimmy's personal email, the same one I hadn't seen in months. I clicked it open. I've thought about everything it began. You were right. I crossed a line. I shouldn't have called your job or dragged my family into this. I was hurt and stupid. I just wanted to feel like I mattered to you. I'm sorry. For the watch, for the messages, for everything. It didn't sound manipulative, at least not overtly. It sounded tired, like someone who finally ran out of people to blame. At the end, he wrote, I hope your brother enjoys the Rolex. He's lucky to have you. Take care, Isabella. I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer for documentation. He replied 5 minutes later. Keep it. Do not respond. So I didn't. Sunday morning, Thomas found me on the balcony with coffee and the kind of silence that feels earned. He nodded toward the sky. Looks like it's finally over. Maybe. He smiled faintly. You know, I wore the watch to my meeting last week. Closed the biggest deal of my career. Yeah, I said, smiling. He nodded. Every time I look at it, I remember what you told me, that real gifts aren't about showing off. They're about gratitude. For the first time in months, I laughed. Not bitter, not tired, just free. Later that night, I opened my journal and wrote, Some people only love you when you're a mirror. Break the reflection, and they call it betrayal. I used to believe silence was strength. Now I know silence just lets the wrong people keep talking. Then I closed the notebook, turned off the light, and let the darkness be just darkness. Not fear, not tension, just rest. For the first time since that text about the Rolex, I slept through the night. 6 weeks later, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The restraining order had gone through. Jimmy hadn't called, texted, or shown up since the day my lawyer sent him the official notice. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't threatening anymore. It was peaceful. Work had returned to normal. HR closed the case after verifying the fake screenshots were indeed fabricated. Teresa from HR even stopped by my desk one afternoon, placed a small plant beside my monitor, and said quietly, You handled this better than most people ever could. I didn't know how to answer. I wasn't sure handling it was the right word. I just endured it. It's strange how trauma doesn't end when the person leaves. It lingers in the sound of a phone buzzing, in a knock at the door that's just the mailman. For weeks I jumped every time I saw an unknown number. But slowly life began to expand again. Thomas came over for dinner every Friday. My parents called, more often gently avoiding Jimmy's name, but always checking if I felt safe. My therapist, a kind woman named Adrienne, helped me rebuild my sense of trust, not in other people, but in my own judgment. She asked me one question that stuck. Why do you think you didn't walk away the moment he sent that text? I thought about it for a long time before answering. Because I wanted to believe he could be better, and because I didn't want to be the kind of woman who gives up too soon. She smiled sadly. You weren't giving up. You were just finally choosing yourself. About 2 months after everything started, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. For a second, my chest tightened, but when I opened it, my face broke into a smile. Thomas, guess what? Got the promotion to team lead. Taking the watch to my first big meeting tomorrow. Don't worry, I'll keep it polished. Me, you deserve it. Every bit of it. Thomas, still can't believe you got me this thing. Makes me feel unstoppable. I stared at the screen for a long time, tears prickling behind my eyes. That Rolex, the very thing that had started all the chaos, had become something completely different. Not a symbol of vanity, but of love, loyalty, and the quiet ways family redeems what others destroy. Later that week, I ran into a mutual acquaintance at a coffee shop, someone who'd known both Jimmy and me back when things were still good. She hesitated before speaking. I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but Jimmy's kind of fallen off the radar. His job let him go last month. I blinked. Why? She shrugged. Apparently they found out about the whole HR complaint mess. Someone screenshotted his rant posts about you and sent them to his manager. I nodded slowly. I didn't report him. I know, but the truth always circles back, doesn't it? It does. It always does. That night, I sat by my window, city lights flickering like small, stubborn stars, and thought about everything that had happened. Jimmy's manipulation, the fake accusations, the calls, the fear. It all felt like a fever dream now. I wasn't angry anymore, just grateful that I got out before it consumed me completely. There was a time when I thought love meant sacrifice, that proving your devotion meant absorbing someone else's chaos until they finally realized how much you cared. Now I knew better. Love without respect isn't love, it's control wrapped in sentiment. A few days later, I got an email from Jimmy's old friend Connor, the one who'd once accused me of embarrassing him. The subject line read, "Apology. I owe you one. You were right about him. I didn't want to see it before. I do now. I'm sorry I made things harder for you." I stared at the words for a moment, then closed the email. I didn't need validation anymore. Still, for the first time, the apology didn't sting. It just settled, like closure. One Sunday morning, Thomas dropped by with croissants and coffee. He wore the Rolex, the gold bezel catching sunlight. Still working perfectly, he grinned. "Good," I said. "You know, sometimes I wonder if buying that watch was the best or worst decision I ever made." He laughed. "It was both, but I'm glad you made it anyway." I smiled, and for the first time in months, it felt easy, real, effortless. "Do you ever think about him?" Thomas asked. "Not really," I said. "When I do, it's just gratitude, because he showed me what kind of love I'll never accept again." Thomas nodded quiet. "That's a good answer." That night, I wrote one final entry in my journal. Some endings don't need revenge. They just need distance. Some lessons don't come gently. They arrive screaming through broken trust. But once you hear them, you never unlearn them. I closed the notebook, placed it on the shelf, and turned off the light. Outside, the city hummed softly. Somewhere, someone else was probably learning the same lesson I had. That love isn't about how much you give, but how much of yourself you refuse to lose. And as I drifted to sleep, one thought settled quietly in my mind. Some people show who they are